Councilmember Gian.
Here.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Here.
Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hanson.
Here.
Mayor Martinez.
Here. At this time, I'd like my colleagues to join me at the podium, please.
Who's that? Who's that person? Colleague. They're talking really low.
Tonight we have one public presentation. It's one of my favorites as we recognize some of the artistic young people in our community. Each year, the Claremont Traditional Artists Guild sponsors a contest for Claremont students in kindergarten through high school. Taking part this year were 50 elementary and middle schools. Claremont High School, Claremont High West Campus, Buena Vista High School, the Community Day School, the Claremont Adult School, and Our Lady of the Rosary. For this 21st annual contest, there are 1,157 entries. So this year's winners had a lot of competition. I'd like to invite John Nolan of the Guild to help us congratulate the artists who are here tonight and hand out their prize money. Our city manager, John Moreno, will call your names, starting with the first place winners for each grade. The artwork will be shown on the screen. Mr. Moreno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first one is kindergartner John Garcia from Wirtz Elementary. Is not here today. Okay, we'll go to the next one. The next one is first grader Samaya Williams from Gaines School. Our next artist is from Lincoln School, and it's second grader Michaela Williams. Michaela? The next artist we have is third grader from Hollydale School, Alexis Tinoco. Alexis? And following Alexis is Eduardo Villarreal from Lincoln Elementary, and he's in the fourth grade. Eduardo? Not here. Okay, moving on. Also at Lincoln Elementary is fifth grader Janae Ramirez. Janae? Now we're going to move to the junior high category, Alondra School, and it brings us Jocelyn Phillips, who's a sixth grader. Jocelyn? Next is seventh grader Alessandra Soriano from Alondra School. Alessandra? Okay, moving on to Zamboni School, eighth grader Andrea Exiga. Andrea? Our next artist from Paramount High West Campus, ninth grader Annette Angulo. Annette? And now we'll get into the high school category. 10th grader Stephanie Bravo. Stephanie? Next artist is 11th grader Giselle Guevara. Giselle? Wow. And lastly, 12th grader Alexa Medina. Alexa? And now we'll get into the special awards. The first award is for Best Use of Color, and it went to Natalie Campos, a 12th grader at Paramount High. Natalie? The next category is for best composition, and that went to 11th grader Vanessa Campos. Vanessa?
Mention that they're sisters.
They're sisters. Oh, wow. Okay. The best composition and the best use of color were sisters, 11th and 12th graders. Very talented. Next is the Chamber of Commerce Award winner, and it goes to 6th grader Paola Villalobos from Paramount Park School. Paola? And our next award category is a Superintendent's Award, and that goes to 12th grader Juan Serrano. Juan? Not here? Okay. Moving on is the Chairman's Award, and that goes to 3rd grader Gabriel Morales. Gabriel? No? Alrighty. Next is the Commissioner's Award, and that goes to 2nd grader from Gaines School, Leilani Gormelli. Leilani? And our next category is the Mayor's Award, and that goes to 12th grader Noah Endo. And our last category winner is the Digital Art winner, and that goes to 9th grader from Paramount High West Campus, Daniela Campos. I can. Kindergartner just showed up. John Garcia, is that John? Yay. We'll try to get his artwork. Oh, there it is. Mr. Garcia's artwork is up on the screen now. And now, Mayor, just a few closing comments and then a picture.
We have been featuring the winning artwork on the city's social media platforms of Instagram and Facebook, so I hope you are following us there. Congratulations to all of our artists. Paramount is very proud of you. Let's give them a round of applause again.
So I'm gonna have you guys. Any family members who want to take a picture? Come on up. Okay. You guys, come this way. Keep coming, keep coming. Okay, so I'm gonna hold you guys right here. Okay, if you're not as tall as a council member, you're in the next row. Much smaller than a council member. There you go. Poke in right here. Right here. Okay. Oh, you messed up. Okay, you guys this way? I'm gonna start with you. It's right here. And then follow her. Come on. There you go. You go, buddy. Okay, do we have an artwork? All good? You got, oh my goodness. Okay, it's paparazzi time, so everybody smile. Let's go. Look at this, look at this. much flashes? Oh, we got another one? Wait, paparazzi, don't. Stop. Eduardo Villarreal? We have Eduardo here. Give Eduardo a hand. Woo! That's my boy. You got another one? Eduardo, is your parents here? You get your picture?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Did you come with him?
Huh?
Did you come with him?
Yeah, take a picture, yeah. Oh, he's got to take his picture. Okay, we'll take the pictures and we can get you. Gabriel? Gabriel Brown, come to the big hand. Off you go. Come on, everybody, you won money, smile. Remember, shop local.
Congratulations again to all the winners. Okay, at this time, we'll have City Council public comment updates. Mr. Moreno?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. At the April 3rd City Council meeting, we had Mr. Gerald Surt, a resident, come up and speak about 3 issues. The first issue was his concern about weeds in the Edison and DWP corridors now that spring is here. As an after action, code enforcement staff did contact Edison and DWP regarding timely weed removal, and we will be monitoring that. The second item that Mr. Serta brought to our attention is he wanted to know the city's position with the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta Tunnel project. At this time, it is expected that the cost for the Delta Tunnel project primarily affects water utilities who import water. The city of Paramount pumps, not imports, the most of our demands. If things change and there is a cost to property owners that becomes part of this project, we will evaluate our position at that time. The third thing that Mr. Serta was concerned about is he wanted to know the timeline for Edison's major power upgrade as street lights in the city are out. Some of them are out. We contacted Mr. Serta by phone and asked him for specifics about this last request. At the time, Mr. Serta could not provide specifics, so staff informed him to call us back if and when he has more details, and we can address that for him. And that concludes that part of the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moreno. Are there any public comments?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We have 2. The first one is from Ms. Dolores Tripp and Ms. Maria Angel, and they'd like to discuss the Friends of the Paramount Library's open house.
Please come forward, ladies.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Dolores could not make it tonight, but I'm here on her behalf and just wanted to thank everyone that participated in the open house. It was a great success. Thank you, thanks the city for the grant. The sponsors, we had a lot of business in the community that sponsor our event with gifts. We were able to give gifts to every child. Some of them got 2 or 3 gifts. And we had lots and lots of baskets, free opportunity drawings. And we want to thank everyone that participated, the public. Musa, the ladies were fantastic, manning or attending the refreshments booth, snacks and drinks. And the Leos Club was very, very helpful. They had all the energy in the world. Same with the Youth Commission. And well, just want to thank everybody for their participation. And we'll hope to do it again next year.
And I would like to thank you, Maria, for taking the lead on this event. And I thought it was a beautiful tribute to Ethel Hilliard, how you presented the library with the beautiful plaque of her and her picture on the plaque, and her 2 sons were present as well. So I thank you.
You're welcome. It was
And how many were in attendance?
over 1,200. I missed that. Over 1,200 people were in attendance.
Great.
So I think that was
Yes.
great. And we the Friends are very grateful for everybody's participation.
Thank you, Maria.
We do have one more speaker's card, Madam Mayor. Our next one is from Mr. Gerald Serta, and he'd like to discuss some city matters. Mr. Serta?
Well, good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I just wanted to follow up on the items John mentioned. They did call me regarding the Southern California major upgrade project that was mentioned last year. I didn't get too much information when I got the call, and this was, I believe, with the power outages that we were having last year. So I asked to see if we can look at the agenda when those Southern California Edison representatives came out here and spoke in front of the council meeting. So I'm not too sure if that information is recorded somewhere, but I don't have that information unless I look at the previous agendas from the website. So I'm looking at those to see when exactly that came in. I don't know if the city is able to do it as well. But we do have a lot of lights that are out on Somerset. I think I counted like 10 between Downey and Hayter, which that's a small section to have 10 lights out. So that area is pretty dark at night. So again, we're looking at safety, make sure that there's no issues, no graffiti, no crime. So lighting is very helpful. I did, John did mention about the easements with DWP and also with Southern California Edison. We would like to see if we can push them a little bit to get the maintenance done, because I know it's not just one easement, there's numerous easements throughout the city. And when you drive by there, it just looks pretty bad, especially the ones that are next to the schools, like Tanner School. That easement's pretty huge, and you can see weeds that are already 3, 4, 5 feet tall. So that's bringing mosquitoes, and we don't want any kids getting sick or stung by mosquitoes. But thank you very much for the update with the Southern California Edison, the California Water Fix. That is coming down the line, and they did mention that even if we don't buy water from MWD, we are looking at property taxes to get increased, probably about $200 per home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Serta. Okay, consent calendar, please.
Move it.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. Item number 4, approval of appointment of city commissioners. At this time, the following residents will be commissioners for 2018-2019. Planning Commission, Jane Daniels, Holly Enriquez, Ernie Esparza, Roy Gilham, Jim Hyde. Public Works Commission, Eileen Aparicio, Russ Hansen, Rosemary Mendez, Linda Timmons, Rosemary Vasquez. Parks and Recreation Commission, Maria Angel, Frank Barraza, Jaime Abrego, Carlos Garcia, Margaret Madrigal. Public Commission, Velma Stallings, Todd Bosma, Viviano Favela, Moses Huerta, Brenda Olmos. Senior Services Commission, Virginia Chavez, Maria Espinoza, Claudia Quinones, Cleone Hatwin, and Jim Stevens. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. Item 5, mayor's appointments. As mayor of the city, I appoint the following council members. California Contract Cities Association, Representative Martinez, alternate Hanson. California Joint Powers Insurance Authority, Representative Hoffmeyer, alternate Martinez. County Sanitation District of LA County, Representative Martinez, alternate Hanson. Eco Rapid Transit, Representative Hoffmeyer, alternate Hanson. Gateway Cities, Representative Martinez, alternate Hanson. Gateway Cities, Representative Hanson. Gateway Cities COG, Representative Martinez, alternate Gillen. Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control, Representative Hanson. League of California Cities, Representative Martinez, alternate Hoffmeyer. LA County City Selection Committee, Representative Martinez. Los Angeles Community Choice Energy Authority, Representative Hanson, alternate Cash. Paramount Unified School District Liaison, Representative Lemmons and Martinez. Sister City Committee, Representative Martinez. Southeast Area Animal Control Authority, Representative Lemmons, alternate Hanson. Southeast Water Coalition, Representative Hanson, alternate Gillen. Southern California Association of Governments, Martinez. Item 6, resolution number 18010. May I have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. Last year, the state passed a law that increased the fuel tax and registration fees that we as California motorists pay. They did this to provide money for much-needed road repairs, and each city will receive a portion of this money. This is really good news because this is the bread and butter of what we as a city do, which is maintain our roads. That's a big thing for us. So before we receive this money, however, for the next fiscal year, the City Council needs to pass a resolution stating how we plan to spend this money. So as Chris Cash will tell you, we plan to pave a lot of streets. Chris?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the council. As John mentioned, you may recall last year the legislature passed SB 1, which through a per gallon fuel tax produces additional state funds that are meant to address basic road maintenance needs. In fiscal year 19, the city is projected to receive approximately $956,000 in SB 1 funds, which really only can be used for road maintenance purposes. Under SB 1, each city is required to provide via resolution a list of streets that have been identified for work using SB 1 funds. This evening, adoption of resolution number 18010 will provide that list. All of the streets are what we would consider local or neighborhood streets, which have been prioritized for work based on use of our pavement management plan. The areas that will have street work are geographically clustered streets in the central west portion of the city and also in the southwest portion of the city west of Garfield. All of these streets were last resurfaced back in the 1980s. So this evening we are recommending adoption of resolution number 18010, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cash?
The item.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. Item number 7, receive and file housing legislation update. May I have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. As you know, there's been a lot of talk about housing throughout the state. Some experts are calling California's lack of housing stock a crisis. Some even have said that it's one of the root causes for our homelessness situation. So last year, the state legislature made some strong attempts at dealing with the housing crunch in California by passing a number of bills. Kevin will go over these pieces of legislation, but before he does, I'd also like to point out that the state legislature, they're at it again this current year with trying to pass some legislation that seems pretty constraining. So we're monitoring that very closely with the help of the League of California Cities. I will talk a little bit more about this later on. So for now, here's Kevin to go over the housing legislation that was passed last year. Kevin?
Thank you, John, and good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. This item is intended to provide you with an update on the significant legislative activity that occurred last year in the state legislature to address the current housing crisis in California. To provide some background, as mentioned in my report, according to the League of California Cities, a majority of renters in California pay more than 30% of their income for rent, and about a third spend about 50%. In addition, the home ownership rate is at its lowest point in nearly 80 years. These numbers are indicators that the cost for housing is growing higher and higher to the point of unaffordability, and is exacerbated by even smaller supply and the competition for what housing is available to California residents. The League cites as some key factors contributing to the housing crisis the lack of funding and subsidies from the state and local government to help build housing and provide support to low and moderate income families to purchase homes, the lasting effects of the Great Recession, like the uneven recovery in various job sectors, the difficulty in obtaining mortgages resulting from new and more stringent standards, and fewer home builders that have come back to help meet the demand. The challenges for developers to build in California, considering the state's regulatory environment and the cost of land and construction, and of course the elimination of local redevelopment agencies by the state, which has resulted in billions of dollars that, a loss of billions of dollars that could have been used for housing construction. To address these issues, the legislature introduced more than 130 housing-related bills in 2017. Of these, 15 were later signed into law by Governor Jerry Brown. The League and cities throughout the state followed these bills closely, as Sacramento has a tendency to fix statewide problems on the expense or at the expense of local government. But of course I digress, and in any case, these bills fall into three major categories: funding, streamlining, and accountability measures. SB 2 and SB 3 are two such funding bills. SB 2 is expected to generate hundreds of millions of dollars for statewide housing needs, such as emergency shelters, transitional housing, by increasing fees on real estate transaction documentation. SB 3 could provide about $4 billion with voter approval for existing statewide programs like multifamily housing construction and assistance for low-income residents, financing for transit-oriented development, grants for first-time homeowners, and funding to assist families build homes through sweat equity. Both SB 2 and SB 3 could help the city with our funding for our general plan update and other specific plans, which will help to guide our future development here in Paramount. The funding would also assist with housing supply issues in the Gateway Cities region as a whole. In terms of streamlining measures, the city was very concerned with one bill in particular, and that's SB 35. In general, this will allow developers to build multifamily housing projects without having to go through the normal public hearing process and without having to adhere to local design standards. While there are exemptions to this bill that will apply to Paramount, this is the type of legislation that eliminates local control and allows the city to protect its residents and its neighborhoods from unrestricted developments. Though it's well-intentioned to quickly address the state's housing needs, the consequences would be neighborhood discord and an increasing public distrust in government. As you'll recall, the city sent a letter to the bill's author last year to express both our concerns and our opposition. To hold cities accountable for denying housing projects that are consistent with existing planning and zoning regulations, several bills provide court remedies, such as a $10,000 per unit for projects that are not approved. While this type of bill won't affect Paramount, as the city allows and approves for housing projects that are consistent with our planning and zoning regulations, again, The city opposes legislation like this as it amounts to state interference over local land use decision-making. There were also other bills that essentially give more authority to the state to act as watchdog over cities and provide new rules as to how cities must comply with the housing elements of their general plans. So in the end, the point of this presentation is that there were a lot of housing bills that were approved in 2017 to address the housing crisis, and there will likely be more in 2018. Fortunately, the new bills in 2017 won't have a big impact on Paramount. However, if the housing crisis were to worsen, we, like all other cities in California, will have to remain vigilant to protect our local communities from well-meaning but harmful legislation that's not in the best interest of our residents. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any
Thank you.
questions for Mr. Chen?
I would who's doing the ongoing monitoring? Is that the Gonzalez's?
Yeah, they do. We also receive information from the League of California Cities, Contract Cities Association. So there are a number of groups out there that are helping us to monitor it. We also try to stay on top of it ourselves.
But you're absolutely right, Councilmember Lemons. If there is definitely a concern, we do express that through the Gonzalez, and they help us out with that for sure.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to receive, to receive and file?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Martinez?
Yes. City website project status update. May I have a staff report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. One of the major projects in this fiscal year's budget is the remodel of the city's website. As you know, our current website is pretty old, and by today's standards, it's not very user-friendly. For example, more people are using their cell phones to access city information, and our website is not easy to view on your mobile device. So we've been working on this, and here's Kevin to give you an update on how the project's going. Kevin?
Thanks, John, and good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This will be a lot lighter than talking about housing. So this is just to provide you with an update of where we are with our current new website development project that you approved last year. For a little bit of background, our current website was created back in 2008 by, and that's 10 whole years ago already, by High Point LLC. Though our current website is now outdated and in need of a complete revamping, it has served us well for providing information regarding the city and the services that we provide. A couple years back, when we completed our communications assessment, one of the primary recommendations at the time was to create a new website, a new and modern website, especially with mobile device capabilities. As a result, last year, staff prepared and sent out an RFP for a website consultant, and in the end, we selected Vision, who was awarded the contract for this job. In terms of the progress for developing our new website, staff formed a team of those who would be the most involved with managing the website and to provide input and to help make decisions. We also want to get input from the community regarding what features residents would like to see with the new website. Of course, we believe that gathering feedback from both staff and the community was critical for creating a good website. We are continuing to work with Vision to make decisions regarding design elements and what type of information to include. Lastly, information will be migrated onto the website, and our staff team will be trained on how to add and edit that content. And as you can see from this checklist, we are still working on the last two items there. Obviously, gathering input is a critical step for this process. For this, staff will be providing information on specific department pages that will include information about what their role is, what services are available to the public, and how to contact them. We also collected information from the public through a survey that we sent out via social media and on the current website. This was valuable as it gave direct insight as to what features would be most helpful from the public's perspective. We also collected information from the public by mapping their tendencies on the current website, or in other words, what we did was we looked to see which website pages were most visited by the public. This information will help us to highlight which pages are, again, mostly visited, and it'll help us to reconsider other pages that may not be used quite as much. This discovery process has been very valuable and has helped to inform our decision on how to go about our design. From the discovery process, we learned that both staff and community priorities with the website must include features that increase transparency, assist with online utility payments, provide more city news, help businesses, provide information on community events, list jobs that are available, provide notifications about public meetings, and much, much more. We also learned that the website could be improved by providing better access to city department information, better search functions, a better user-friendly environment, mobile device optimization, which we've talked about, and other content features. And this slide shows what our current website looks like today. Again, the website is functional and provides information, but as you can see, it's a bit outdated and not what our younger and more savvy internet community has come to expect. And this is just a preliminary design of what the new website will look like. This is obviously still a work in progress, but as you can see, it has more of a modern feel, and it'll highlight things that people come to our website most for, things like how to pay utility bills, providing information on parks and recreation programs, how to request services, how to obtain permits, and how to access public meeting information. And this slide is a view of the bottom half of what the homepage will look like. And again, this shows a more modern functionality, like the top menu features remaining available at the top, as well as easier access to city calendar events and a news section. And as you can also see, access to our social media sites are also very prominent. And finally, the last steps are to complete the design elements, migrate and add and edit content, and provide training to staff. So with that concludes my presentation, and I'll be glad to answer any questions and to hear any other suggestions that you might have.
Kevin, what about links, like for CalMet, so people can pay their bill? I know it's separate, so just a link to their website.
Right.
And then also to Edison, a link to their website.
Right, right.
That way, when they're paying the water bill, it's convenient to just keep clicking.
Right, yeah, we'll provide links to our utility providers as well as other organizations that we, deal with, or if there is a relevant project that's underway. I'll go back a little bit here. As you can see, we have the top menu, where you see there with the dark red line, services, government, residents, businesses, I want to. Those will be drop downs, and we'll list several other pages that you can go to. So for example, under services, that might be the appropriate place to put utilities, where you can access a link to the different utilities, like Edison. Also, what's interesting and what will be new for this website is the feature on the top menu on the right, where it says I want to. That will be a place where if somebody comes to the website with a particular question, how do I obtain a business license? How do I find my voting precinct, et cetera, et cetera. How do I, any number of different things. So it'll just be a place that we will try to come up with answers to questions that people may be looking for. So anyways, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good.
Very good.
Why does it say I want to, and you're saying how do I? Because like if you go.
I'm sorry, I want to, not how do I.
But it should say how do I, because
It can be
that's
that.
the language that
Okay.
when you search for something on.
If that's a comment, that's actually something we've seen two different ways. Some city websites use the I want to, some use the how do I. So, we can however way we phrase that, we can tailor the answer to fit that.
Very good.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes.
I had talked a little bit to staff about this, and I don't know if it's for consideration in building the website, but I know it's much less expensive to do it from the get-go than to add something in later. But if there's an interest, I would like to see us create a volunteer registration online. When I attended the tree event, there were several people that came up and were talking about other fields of expertise they had and wanting to volunteer to help in the city, whether it was for emergency because they were retired EMTs, or they had some expertise in parks and recreation in running 10Ks, that kind of thing. So I think if we did that and made it to where it was category specific, to where at any point we could, pull up the things that people look for all the time. We're always looking for volunteers for certain ideas in the city. We can also share that with service clubs when they're looking for volunteers for certain things and everything. But I would like to see us incorporate that when we have so many people wanting to come forward and help, and we need some place to gather that data from.
It's a good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. It is something that we've talked about, and John has brought it up on a number of occasions, and that's something that we will put under I want to, or how do I volunteer, for example, and then we could provide some information as to how they can contact us and state what their particular expertise is
What
in.
I'm hoping for is that we can actually create a registration online. Like, we design an app with drop-down fields. That way it makes the search when you go to compile it, if they're identical fields, what is your line of expertise, and put a drop-down menu there. It's in emergency assistance, it's in parks and recreations, it's whatever. But I want it to be online where it's easy for them to do that, instead of going through a step and contacting City Hall and getting an application. That way they can do it at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And at the same time, if you already gather the data from them with drop-down menus, then you already have your database compiled, and you don't have to then turn around
Good point.
and create another one.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely look into finding out how to do that.
Very good, Peggy. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay. At this time, are there any council members who would like to make a comment?
I'll start, Madam Mayor, and I want to, thank Maria and everybody who participated in the library open house. I know you had a lot of volunteers from the Friends of the Library and the service clubs, and I know that your goal mostly was to make people aware of the services that are provided at the library. There's so many of them that are new that people don't know about, and I think that the show that you had inside with the magicians and the entertainment certainly brought people in and kept them engaged and asking a lot of questions. And I can tell you, my granddaughter can't wait to go back to the library. So thank you, Maria. It was really a great event.
Any
I'm
comments,
just the
Darryl?
same thing with Peggy. I was there also, and it was very well done. Maria, you did a great job.
Councilmember? John?
Yes, I was also there too, and there was way more people than what I thought there would be. In fact, I talked to somebody who said they were probably older than I am and hadn't been in a library in 50 years. They were very impressed with the whole thing. Also, on Saturday morning, I was at the high school at a monitor at the Rotary Club Student Forum. Been doing that for, I don't even know how many years, quite a few. And that's really interesting. For those that have never seen it, it's a definite worthwhile. Gary's sitting out here, he could probably tell you a little bit about it, more than I could. But it's really an interesting thing, and some of the questions that are supposed to be discussed amongst the students at each table as they rotate through the whole program gets pretty interesting. I won't go into my question. Well, maybe I will. It was concerning the Second Amendment, which I thought, oh my, I'm going to have a hard time with this one, and I didn't at all. It was pretty enlightening, most of the comments that I was getting from the students, and I don't think there was one student that thought that it should be repealed, maybe tweaked and added to a little bit. That was a general consensus, but it was very interesting. The Rotary Club, hats off to you guys, because they always do a fine job of putting this together. I think that was the 20th year. Is that correct, Gary? 20th year that this has been done, and there's a monitor at each table, and there's a judge also that judges the kids at the table. And our job is to try to keep them engaged and try to get them talking. Sometimes that can be a little difficult if they don't really want to say anything sometimes. But the more they participate and the better they do, then they get cash awards afterwards in a big presentation. There was over $2,000 that was given away. Is that true?
2,000.
How much? $1,400. Okay, $1,400 was donated and given away to the winners of those particular competitions, I guess you could say. So I was really interested, and I thank the Rotary Club for putting that together, and I'm sure they probably will have another one next year, more than likely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gillen?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make the Friends of the Library, but I had a pre-planned camping trip, and let me tell you, it was certainly nice to get out to the fresh air and breathe some clean, crisp air, and it was well needed. I needed a good little trip, and it was pre-planned, so I'm glad it was a success. But speaking of clean air, we've had some spikes in hex chrome in the area of our industrial, and it's a little alarming, so I want you guys to stay informed. But the Paramount Coalition has given away one air filter, and we're ready to give away another one. So if you have know of a needy family that has some breathing issues in the home, please let us know, because we'd like to give away another air filter for your home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Maria, for all your hard work. Okay, at this time, I adjourn this meeting to make.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I had comments from staff.
Sorry,
No
sorry,
problem.
jumping.
No problem at all. Yes, I was asked to join a group of city managers who traveled to Sacramento to meet with various chiefs of staff of legislators, as well as department heads from state agencies. There you can see in the photo there's that good-looking group of city managers from the Gateway region. City of Long Beach, starting on the left there, City of Paramount, City of Downey, City of Southgate, and City of Lakewood. That's the list of city managers that went up. The topics that we focused on were homelessness, transportation, housing, and economic development post-RDA. We explained to the staff how their proposals in Sacramento truly really have an impact on the Gateway region, something that, with the exception of our local leaders, they don't seem to take into account when they're proposing legislation and rules. So for instance, let me give you an idea. As mentioned earlier, there's new housing bills that are being proposed for 2018 that require cities to really increase the density as a way to provide more housing in their community. But this legislation doesn't take into account some of the density already existing in our region. For example, Paramount is at 12,000 people per square mile. Southgate and Bell are at 13,000 people per square mile. You take other cities in LA County and they're only at around 5,000 people per square mile. So our argument was, our plea for them was to please take into account those cities that already have high density levels if you're proposing legislation that has to increase the density. So when it comes to economic development, we stress to them the importance of creating funding opportunities for those cities who are impacted negatively by the state's overall economic success. We describe for them how the Gateway region is. For all intents and purposes, we're a good movements corridor. With the two ports, the 710 freeway, the 91, and the 605 freeways crisscrossing our area. We also have a lot of warehousing and rail that crisscrosses through our towns, but we get little in the sense of economic development. So the goods are moved through our towns, they're sent to retailers in other cities, who then reap the benefits of that through sales tax. Yet the impact of the good movements that's going about is mostly felt by the residents that are living in our communities. So we ask them to consider that any future economic development strategies that they're proposing, because there is talk about reviving redevelopment agencies, that if there is the future economic development strategies, that they take this into account, that we as a region have the impact but see little of the benefit. So anyway, these were just a couple of the many discussions that we had with the folks in Sacramento. All in all, it was a very good trip. We as a group were received very well by the staff members. Several of them commented that they've never had a group of city managers from one region of the state come reach out to them like we did last week. So we're discussing having a follow-up meeting with them in the near future, and they definitely welcome that we do that. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. I'd like to adjourn this meeting in honor of Sheila Duke. Sheila Duke was the owner of Duke and Associates Real Estate. She was involved in our community for many, many years and in our service clubs. So at this time, I adjourn in her memory.